The best questions are not asked by mathematicians, they are asked by philosophers.
How would you explain data analytics to each of them in one sentence?
Hard question that data science people are finding it hard to answer, saying,
From finance to fashion, from mining to trucking, transportation, trading. He is Mr. Pankaj Rai. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in today. What do you think India's biggest win is going to be?
in the world of abundance, the decision making model has to change.
In one of the stores of a large chain, and these guys put a black tape on the cameras.
More information consumption, mental illness. I think the value that the startups bring to the table is far higher than that.
A lot of people who know you take a lot of gap.
Unless you add commerce and humanities on top of that, which
Right.
your parents sometimes told you is not worthy
A
of.
lot of people are having a top-down push for deploying AI.
Ultimate intent is not calculator first or AI first, business first.
What is that one big problem that you're trying to solve for right now that you're completely obsessed with at this point in time?
Are two industries that are very dear to us. Our health and our money. We don't want to part with any of it.
Are there any key attributes because of which loans have become faster in terms of disbursements? This show is brought to you by CRUDS, your partner in digital transformation. From cloud innovation to intelligent automation, we redefine enterprise growth, empowering organizations to shape the future with technology that thinks ahead. Hello everyone, my name is Abhay Tandon and welcome to yet another episode of the Innovators and Disruptors podcast. Today's conversation is very interesting for me because we're going to deep dive into the world of data analytics and specifically talk to you about how a lot of business decisions from banking to tech to the world of an Indian conglomerate is being taken using data analytics and how that becomes such a pertinent part of our lives today. And for that, we have an amazing person joining us today, a guest who I also refer to as my mentor as well. He is Mr. Pankaj Rai. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in today.
Thanks, Abhay, and it's wonderful to use this holiday in this way for me.
No, I mean, and for the audiences, let me also introduce you. Pankaj sir, has in his journey been an engineer from IIT
Delhi.
Delhi. Then from IIM Ahmedabad, you did your MBA, and then you have been, changing the landscapes across banking and tech by deploying a lot of technology. You're teaching technology to a lot of non-tech managers or people in the world of business as well, right? And across companies like ICICI, Dell, G Capital, to then Wells Fargo, where I had the opportunity to meet you as well for the first time about 8 years ago, and now with Aditya Birla Group as the Chief Data Analytics Officer for the whole group. So that's such a fantastic journey. And today, so I wanted to talk to you a lot more specifically about Aditya Birla Group. Of course, I want to talk to you about your leadership aspects. How do you look at leadership? How do you look at technology today? But also dive deeper into how business outcomes are a function of how data and AI levers are being tweaked on a day-to-day basis in both business as well as consumer brands of Aditya Birla Group. It's a very large conglomerate. I think, if I'm not wrong, it's a $100 billion market cap plus conglomerate, right, from India. And it ranges across a lot of different diverse business verticals from finance to fashion, from mining to trucking, transportation, trading, paints, cement, and I don't know what not, jewelry as well, right? There's so many more, I'm sure. So I wanted to touch upon some of these aspects if that's good with you.
Sure. So I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, and I'm sure many people follow him. And he has this wonderful video called the Golden Circle, where he
Hmm.
draws three circles, and there's a why in the middle, and there's a how in the outside, and then
Right.
what totally outside.
Hmm.
And usually we see the what of everything and everyone, and we try to make conclusion based on the what, but the
Hmm.
real meat is in the why and the how. So I will use that analogy to say why and how of my own approach, because a lot of what's that you spoke about,
Right.
I have often reflected and I have been asked why do you do that. So my reflection is that while I studied engineering and MBA, my first job was in management consulting,
Hmm.
where the muscle that was developed was to say what should businesses be and what should businesses do. So this was back in 93 when India was liberalizing, and a lot of consulting assignments were to say what business should we invest in. And a lot of foreign companies were coming and Indian companies were also trying to diversify. So my first muscle development was which business should be entered into, what is the ROI, what is the opportunity, and all of that, right? So first was the consulting muscle of what should the business be.
Right.
Next, I got into ICICI and GE Capital, which was about, again, lending money to businesses to say what kind of returns can you generate, which businesses will do well, which won't do well. So again, a commercial angle. So the first angle was the strategy angle in the consulting world, and then there was the commercial angle. How do you make money and why do you lose money? Because there were some companies which went sick, and in ICICI and all, we would also look at those things. So I learned that, and then I got into this world of data analytics and offshoring and so on through Dell and others. So I think my primary metric to look at anything has been strategy, and then finance, and then technology.
Makes a lot of
So I
sense.
think for me, whenever someone talks about saying what will AI do or what should happen here and all, my natural inclination is to say what business are we in? How does it make money? And now let's figure out what contribution can technology make. So I think that's just a reflection to keep in mind. So when people talk about AI strategy or what should data do, I said let's first talk about strategy and finance and commercial, and then we can figure out how to use this data and analytics to make those things meaningful. So that's just a context in which I think about things. So talking about Aditya Birla Group, I've been here close to 4 years. First time working in a Indian conglomerate, great brand, great reputation, diversified businesses. I tell people that this is a microcosm of the Indian economy. In
Exactly.
fact, one of my welcome speech to some of our interns who just joined last month was to say that, by the way, our current chairman took over just about 30 years ago, when he took over the company and the group. I think it was about $200 million market cap, and now, like you said, about $110 billion. So in these 30 years, the group has probably averaged about 17-18% of CAGR market cap growth,
Wow.
right? So I tell people that, you guys are joining here now. Think about the next 30 years. If we were to apply the same 18% CAGR to this 110 billion, what will it become? It's become over $2 trillion.
Right.
And I tell people that this 2 trillion is actually not difficult to imagine.
Right.
Today we have 2 trillion market cap companies. There are a few of them out
Yeah.
there in the US.
Yeah.
So there's no reason when India becomes a 30 trillion economy, as it should, there can't be a $2 trillion group. So I just tell people, and that's when nothing changes, the same CAGR. We should actually try to do more than that. So again, those are the contexts in which I talk to people to say, this is the business ambition that we ought to have.
Right.
Now, in order to pursue that ambition, what can data, AI, all of these things do is how I would frame this problem to say, what do you want to become? And then how does these technologies allow you to become that, either by making your current businesses different or launching new businesses which use the power of these technologies. And the group is trying to do all of that. So that's just the broad context. Just the other flavor on the group is that a lot of people, and me included, when I joined, we had heard a lot about these various brands, the consumer brands. Louis Philippe on the fashion side, and
Right.
Masaba and many others, and also on the Aditya Birla Capital side. But contrary to popular perception, the market cap contribution of these consumer businesses is not as large. So, like I said, the 110 billion market cap, our fashion retail business probably
Right.
contributes 3. The financing businesses, 2 listed companies, probably contribute about 8 to 10 or something like that, right? So, in the larger scheme of things, the big daddy is really UltraTech Cement, close to 35 40 billion dollar market cap.
Right.
The next one big is Hindalco Aluminium, which also owns a company called Novelis in the US.
Right.
Third is Grasim. Some of us growing up have heard of Grasim as a conglomerate in itself. And then, of course, there are Vodafone Idea, and then Birla Carbon, and some unlisted companies, trading business, and so on and so
Paints
forth.
and
So it's a very, and of course, new businesses in paints and jewelry have been launched.
yes.
A couple of new digital businesses like Birla Pivot, which is a B2B e-commerce platform. Tomorrow, which is a bunch of D2C brands which have been consolidated, and
Right.
many new businesses in the offing. Green energy is one area being looked at very seriously, and so on and so forth. So therefore, in some ways, the Aditya Birla Group represents the microcosm of the Indian economy, and therefore anyone working over here can get the exposure to the full breadth of what our economy has to offer, and therefore it's an exciting place to be.
I'm sure. I mean, I just think about the fact that you have access to all data points, either which are existing today or the data points that you would want to extract out of it to build a lot of decision frameworks on, and that for a lot of people would be like a candy land. Of course, not for you. You've been living that life, and there's a lot of responsibility is on you, onus on you to deliver those outcomes. But for someone sitting outside, you having an overview and like you said, of a microcosm of the Indian ecosystem is so exciting and so relevant today, right? To get into deeper insights, and that's what I wanted to also tap into today. Two amazing points that you shared, Pankaj, was one was that today a lot of people are having a top-down push for deploying AI, and you said that's a very counterintuitive mechanism or method of looking at solving a problem. You spoke about strategy coming in first to figure out what's the business that we are in. Second, what is the money making opportunities out there? What is the way we currently monetizing? What are the different ways in monetization and saving money and so on and so forth, as well the top line, bottom line impacts. And then you talk about how technology can come in. That's where AI and data play a role to either create a top line impact or bottom line impact or an NPS and so on and so forth, right? So that's a fantastic learning for a lot of youngsters who are trying to build something today, right? Because you don't have to be technology first in everything that you do. You have to think about what's the problem, why does it need to be solved, and then think about what's the technology that comes in.
I
Uh,
think just a flavor over there when people say I am AI first or I am data first, all of that. I think the way to think about it is that, whenever you are thinking about that business, do consider the relevance of that capability because many a times, we are very used to using whatever we were doing before.
right.
I mean, imagine when the calculator came in and people wouldn't use a calculator because they felt they're better without it, right? So you have to tell them maybe calculator first. So that's
Right.
fine. But the ultimate intent is not calculator first or AI first, business first.
Makes sense.
So that is sometimes not said, but that has to be imagined that eventually you have to improve your business. You're not doing it for the sake of doing it because many a time people do end up utilizing things. I mean, if you own a car, I mean, you need to know why you want to use it. Otherwise, it's of no use. So any technology, the
Right.
user has to know why they bought it and what they want to do with it and is it worthwhile. So many a time when a lot of companies say XXX first, people just start using it and it's not bad to not use it. But then eventually the
It
value
gets
will come
exploited.
in when you merge it with your business outcome.
Makes sense.
And that requires a slightly different muscle to do that. Many a time people are hiring a lot of tech people. So I was in Six Sigma and G. People had a bunch of Six Sigma people and said, go do some improve processes. Now, some of the people had no context of the process. How could they
Right.
improve process? They just knew Six Sigma. So just having a technology mindset is not good enough. That technology has to change business. So that's why I said the strategy and commerce and then technology. And in fact, we have a framework internally. We call it the ways of thinking, ways of working, and ways of doing. So I say the doing part is the tech part. Ways of thinking is the strategy part, and ways of working is your commercial acumen. So unless you merge all three, think of yourself as a full stack human being vertically downwards versus horizontally. I think that's the impression that we are trying to create among our analysts to say, while you learnt engineering and science, that's just the base layer, necessary but not sufficient. Unless you add commerce and humanities on top of that, which your
Right.
parents sometimes told you is not worthy of being done, that's where the value is. So today the value is actually in the humanities and the commerce side
Right.
because tech is sort of going to be democratized and much more easily available. In fact, after the LLMs came in, and by the way, my daughters are also economics graduate. They are not data science people, and a bunch of kids that I know who are scared of maths, and they
Right.
would in the past feel that if this data science is a great field, but we don't like math, so we can't succeed. So these days, my message to them is that now these LLMs have democratized this thing to say you have to be a good prompt engineer. And what is the
Right.
prompt? Prompt is really asking question. The best questions are not asked by mathematicians; they are asked by philosophers. So if you are a economics person or a liberal arts person, maybe you can ask better question than the engineer. So don't think that you are any less than the other guy as far as usage is concerned. Now, of
Right.
course, creating those technology, there'll be some scientists who will do it, and they obviously need to know all of that. But as a user, I would argue that maybe the humanities people can ask better questions. The engineers can may not be as good while I'm an
That's a
engineer myself.
fantastic point.
So those are the ways I'm kind of challenging people to think about using these technologies and asking better questions because a lot of non-engineers have been scared of using data science. And I'm telling them that this LLM is actually giving you an advantage because you know English and this is linguistics, how to think about the world, how to imagine the world. Because nowadays people are saying, you have to contextualize the world. Who's better to contextualize something than an artist?
No, fair. That's a very interesting point. In fact, on the same note, I wanted to ask you, uh, since EBG is such a diverse group, and you must be talking to a lot of very different sets of personas, right, across the group. If you had to talk and explain data and analytics to, let's say, a plant head on one side, a wealth advisor on the other side, and a merchandiser on the third side, how would you explain data analytics to each of them in one sentence?
See, everyone understand their business and their function well.
Hmm.
So you have to just talk to them in their own language. So I use three words to explain data analysis. I said, whatever you're doing, you can be a marketing person, whatever. this data will either make you do these things faster, because sometimes you can automate things and all that, better because you can bring all different sources of data and more richer analysis, so analytics can be better, and then newer. The things that were not possible and you can do it. So I would say these three words summarize the outcome that anyone can get in any business that they are in: faster, better, newer. What else do you need? Everyone needs faster, better, newer. So I think that's how I would tell anyone that whoever you are, wherever you are at the bottom of the pyramid, top of the pyramid, you are the top of the pyramid, you are consuming a lot of reports. Maybe they're giving you the, I mean, you can get it. And by the way, and there are lots of examples of these examples. So there's a specific use case where lots of reports were coming and people are figuring out what to do. Now all of those are coming at 9 a.m., all automated. They're also highlighting the issues that are there, the anomalies. So people
Right.
can start acting on it from 9 a.m. versus from 9 to 2, they were figuring out what to do and start acting at 2. So you are faster, you are
Yeah.
better, and some newer ideas are also coming up because some of the insights are new. So I'm just saying, and you can apply this theme anything to anyone. So I think whatever business or function you are owning, you want it to become faster, better, newer, with better decisions, and that's what I think one has to think about it, and then go back and seek the right data and the right technology to get there.
True. I mean, I remember in 2017, started running some experiments when I was working at Target. That's where we first met as well. So we use NLP and NLG to look through a lot of data points, identify what are the data points that were more meaningful for us, extract information from that, use NLG to then create reports. And with LLMs today, that work is so much more sophisticated because now, as you said, right, there's a lot more richness of data from varied other sources that can come together and give you a lot more specific information through generative AI as well, right? Now, charts of different form factors of manufacturing chart would be very, very different as against a merchandising chart. And it's like you said, available on their tabs or their laptops at 9 a.m. in the morning for them to immediately counter on it or work on it. Uh, in fact, that brings me to my next question. What is that one problem? Because you work with so many again diverse groups. What is that one big problem that you're trying to solve for right now that you're completely obsessed with at this point in time?
So I think the most interesting problems which are useful is very are usually very boring in nature. So data quality is a very boring topic. No one would say get excited by data quality, but that's a huge problem.
Of course.
We have so many plants, all kinds of machines, all kinds of data points. So we are now trying to create a unified data quality engine, and it's not difficult to comprehend. Think about, we have sensors, so making sure all the sensors are in place. They are giving the data. The data is in the range that it should be. If it's temperature, it should be in this range, pressure, this range. It is coming at the right frequency. And therefore, the model that runs is the correct model. Because if these things break down, you won't know what went wrong. And that can be applied to your healthcare model or whatever model. So I think this whole data quality piece is very, very useful, especially in the real-time situation. But not often people spend too much time about it. So we are focusing a lot this year to say, and we have 200 factories. How can we create a data quality engine where all the factories can have data available of the right quality, and then the models can run? So that's one. Second is we call it the asset taxonomy framework. Now a motor or a compressor is there everywhere.
Right.
Now in every place those things have not been labeled properly. So a model, if you make a digital twin of a compressor in one factory, those points are called something. We are now creating, again, abstracting it out and creating framework to say if you create a model for a compressor here, it can be transported there. So many of these things are behind the hood, not very well known, but extremely powerful. So we are trying to focus a lot on the fundamentals because we get excited by the outcome. Oh, we created a great twin. But how do you translate that twin to 20 other places?
True.
That's hard. So some of those foundational layers is where we are, getting excited about.
No, that's fantastic. In fact, more often than not, asset libraries or common terminologies become so important, whether it's a CDP implementation or anything else later on for a large group with so many different types of businesses that it becomes very important that we all talking the same language across the group, right? And that also means, or brings me to my next point, which is there must be use cases where you must be able to leverage one of the models that you've created to solve for a particular problem in one business, and that can be applied or ported to other businesses as well. Could you share some examples of that, and also maybe an example of something that you tried to make it work but for some reasons it did not?
Yeah. So I think models around digital twins, they are the easy ones because if you make a digital twin of a equipment in one place, wherever else that equipment is there. So those are the easy ones which we are trying to which is the reason this need for asset taxonomy came about.
Hmm.
Because while the equipment is the same, it's not labeled in the right way. So once we create the right labels, the transportation is likely to happen. So that I think will go smoothly because those equipments behave in the same way. In fact, on that one, we are now starting to engage with an interesting startup. What they are saying is that the traditional digital twin was just using the temperature, pressure, the mathematical numbers. What they have done using LLM, then we have to figure out whether it works or not. They have utilized the physics and chemistry of the process to make the twin even more comprehensive. So they are saying we have taken the textbook based on which these things were made, the physics of that material, the chemistry of the process, and they have made a more comprehensive twin. So we'll do that. So we also try to engage with new startups, with new ideas to say, can we make it even better? On the other side, where things haven't moved as well, which we had expected to, is the area of logistics. We felt, oh, we are a great manufacturing company. We have so many trucks running across businesses across the board. And if we do some logistics optimization in one business, it'll work elsewhere. I think what we failed to acknowledge was that sometimes the trucks are of different sizes, different capacity, different products go in different sizes of trucks. Then there are, local nuances and, sometimes, mafias and all in different locations. So there are a lot of other factors which are not allowing the, so while technically the model is the same, but the other factors we fail to recognize, which is what I sometimes say that whatever we do in the real world, you have to look at it holistically. It's not just the mathematics of it. There's a whole lot of other variables which are hidden, which we call change management related to other methods. So that those are the things that we are learning, and we'll find a way to see how to transport that as well.
Makes a lot of sense. So thank you so much. That's a very, very interesting example. In fact, in 2018, I learned a hard lesson myself. I was running an innovation project for Anheuser-Busch InBev, and we wanted to use a combination of a few sensors and a couple of cameras to capture a lot of refrigerator-related or cooler-related analytics, right? Be it temperature, be it luminosity, be it even the movement of an asset, right? So people were stealing assets, so that had to be replenished. So we're capturing a lot of these analytics, and we tried it in our demo room environments, and we thought that it makes a lot of sense. It's capturing a lot of information that's going to be very relevant for the business. Cut to deploying that in 10 different point of sales environments, wine shops, etc., in Bangalore itself, and we failed at it badly because we realized that the real world scenarios were so different. One wine shop owner in the outskirts of Bangalore was very disappointed when we tried to do this at 12 p.m. in the afternoon, and we thought that these are not peak hours, right? So this would make sense, and he threw us out, my team out, saying that if you want to take your cooler, you take the cooler with you. I'll bring another one from Kingfisher, but this is the time where it's a peak hour for me, because in the outskirts more people shop during the afternoons for beers, hypothetically, which we are sitting in the central part of Bangalore. We did not know this, supposedly it was our fault. In another case, we deployed this in one of the stores of a large chain, and these guys put a black tape on the cameras. And at our end, our systems were showing that the sensors are working, the cameras are working, they're operational, but the images that we were getting were black images.
Right.
And we had to actually go there to deploy and make changes, right? So the learning was very simple and straight for me at that point in time as well, that sometimes sitting out of corporate offices, we are far removed from the realities of the world out there, right? Like you mentioned, there's so many cultural nuances that come in at each of these mining sites as well, where trucking solutions could be very different from one location to another. This is so critical today for people to learn from.
So the generalized idea that you refer to is something that I've been telling. So we also have a centralized team to drive training and learning and all of that. And recently, one of the senior leaders was talking to me to say, how do I create a digital transformation or AI mindset among leaders, right? So the thinking is that the leaders don't get it, quote unquote, and we need to teach them. Take your leader of that wine shop, right? Someone say he doesn't get it. Look, he's threw us out, right? In some cases, people don't get it, but many a time I think we don't get it. We need to understand their business context to say how do they approach their business, and within that, how can we make a difference? So I think the technology people need to take time to understand how the real world works, and within that, how this technology can be subsumed. I think we tend to believe that our technology is the superset. Everyone else has to come and comply with it.
Right.
I think we all know that that's not how it works. They are interested in making their business better. and they are not necessarily interested in all the nuances of technology. And we tend to talk about NLG, this, that, and the other. I mean, imagine you have a car and a driver, and you tell him you have to go from X to Y, and he says, "Oh, I'm going to do this, and now the carburetor will fire up." And so I don't care what's going to happen. Just take me there, right? And tell me what I need to do. And if I don't need to do anything, that's fine. So I think somewhere, some of the folks who are the SMEs in any field, they tend to imagine the world in the way they have perceived it in their discipline. They need to enhance their perspective to include the real world of business in which these technologies can make a difference. Of course, we need to teach the others also about these things, but I think a lot of teaching has to happen to the specialists for them to understand the taxonomy of the world in which their technologies can make a difference.
Very true. Contextualization and awareness become so critical in these aspects.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get into some of those business groups within ABG as well. Talk to you about that. And for audience's perspective, let me just call it out. One of the bigger groups is around mining as well, right? So Hindalco runs captive bauxite mines. UltraTech, which you mentioned as from a cement standpoint, has about $40 billion market cap or more, operates limestone mines that feed India's largest cement network, right? From that perspective, if I were to ask you about a specific question around some of your decision making as well, right, on data points, we have noticed that monsoons and again heat waves have also brought in a lot of disruptive haulages as well, right? So in these scenarios, what are some important metrics that you look at? Would there be certain data points that will help you plan your trucking systems, your loaders, and how do they sync with each other better? What kind of KPIs do we look at?
Yeah. So mining is a great one. By the way, what you didn't mention, but we actually have a separate company on mining called SL Mining Limited,
Okay.
and they actually do some contract work for our own a few
Hindalco
UltraTech
and
mines
others,
also,
yeah.
and they may end up doing more because they were originally set up as a helping the coal mining. As coal is the biggest mining in India, but now
Right.
they're diversifying to do other things. So with them, the SL Mining company, now we are working on a project of a specific mine where what we're calling it a connected mine, where everything will be connected. So I think the way, and I have to say I haven't been an expert in mining, but a lot of mining work right now in India is very very localized, not very high tech, because it is seen as a sort of a not something that you put in a lot of high end equipment. But that is changing a lot. So we are specifically taking one specific mine where a lot of new high end expensive equipment is being ordered, and we want to start kind of doing connected mine from day one. So while the mine is still being worked out, our team is already creating mock-up dashboards to say, the day the mine is operational, as a CEO, what would you like to see on day one? As a the operator of a certain machine, what would you like to see on day one? So I think we are already working on quote unquote the change management to say some of you have done these things in a certain way. Is there a newer, better way? And you tell us. We'll work together. So instead of having something being done and then trying to change it, we are hoping that from day one that mind will probably work with a totally different mindset where everything is connected to each other, and we are trying to optimize at a more global level. So that's actually a very exciting project that our team is very excited about, because this is not something we have done before. So, and we hope that we can utilize some of these knowledge to many of the other minds that you spoke about. But we are trying to, so one thing that we do is pick up one area, do everything very well, take those learnings, abstract it. The abstraction can happen in the form of code, which can be translated. It can be in terms of some best practices, some management rituals, and maybe some reports. So in this case, we think that some management reports can be created, which can aid better decision making for various practitioners within the mind. So because what is happening is so much new things are available now, many of the people over there, they have to also change that. Oh, if this is available, then I could do this. Those things have to happen in collaboration with them, because everyone is used to running a thing in a certain way. So I think we are having those conversations to say, when you go into this mine, maybe you can run it differently. So I think that is how to happen, and that probably has to happen everywhere. Wherever now new type of information is available, people can do things differently. I'll give you another example. There are lots of market intelligence teams in many companies, and we have many of them. So what they do, they will bring lots of reports. Some are paid reports, some are open reports. There are 3-4 analysts. They'll sit down, create a nice deck for the boss and say, you know what, boss, this is happening this month, this can happen next month, all of that. Very manual intensive. In one place, what we have now obviously done is automated all of it. So not only does it generate that report probably much better than what those 4-5 analysts could do, it is also able to say, what should you do next month based on that?
Makes
which
sense.
is using again external data, internal data, all that. Now, the role of some of the people who are creating reports is going to become that now you can act on these things. So let's say those reports were saying you can do this in procurement or this in marketing or this in supply chain. These people who are data people can now become supply chain and marketing and other people to say, I can now use this insight and do a higher order job to drive action versus create insights. So I think we are also looking at some of these problems as a human plus process problem, because many a time the other question being asked is, oh, if you automate everything, what will these guys do?
Right.
Oh, they will become higher order people. They'll act on those things, because in the past those insights were going to the CEO, who may or may not have the time to instruct his people to do whatever. But these people can become his extended arms to act on those things. And by the way, based on those actions, they can train this model. They can say, oh, by the way, so you can actually create a better model using the real insights and keep training it. So I think the nature of work and the job will change and people will get upgraded also. Not everyone, but many of them can.
It makes a lot of sense. In fact, that was a lovely point where you also added the fact that it will close out the loop, where these guys will then, based on the actions that they're taking, will also feed back into the engine, the LLMs
And
and the
that is the
engines as well.
proprietary knowledge of that business. Because
Exactly.
I think the focus that we are having is what proprietary knowledge that you are creating and what new knowledge are you creating. Frankly, this whole world of AI and all of that should translate into better new knowledge being created at every node. And I
Makes
think
sense.
it's our duty to figure out for us in that business what is that new knowledge which is meaningful for us and how can we keep accumulating it and make it better. And that's the endeavor that we are all trying to go after.
For sure, sir. Thank you so much. Now let's move from mines to aluminium, right? So again, Hindalco and Novelis you mentioned in US as well. So for the perspective of the audience, let me just highlight that Novelis is the world leader in the aluminium beverage can sheet and the largest recycler of used beverage cans, pushing higher recycled content, which focuses, of course, on circularity as well a lot more. In fact, the latest sustainability targets include 75% average recycled content and keeping all these things in mind, uh, we understand that recycled content is related to the big energy wins, right? And you did at the start of the conversation also talk about energy focus, sustainability focus. What are some of the key metrics that you look at from this lens standpoint?
So I think if you look at aluminium, in India, Hindalco is our flagship company. Novelis, like you said, is there. Two very different businesses, two very different contexts. So Hindalco has a lot of upstream, where you have bauxite mine, then you take alumina and all of that, and you make, products which are, it can be coils, it can be rolled, whatever, right?
She's
There it's the end use, which is the can.
right.
That goes to a final end user. Here it is sort of an intermediate which can go to this. Now, of course, we are also trying to diversify downstream in Hindalco also to maybe get into making things for the EV battery, maybe Apple or whatever, right? Wherever downstream. So downstream is an important focus area even for our domestic business. But the global business is largely over there because the market is very mature. Recycling is very mature. If you
Right.
think about recycling in India, it's still not a very mature market because we are so not as good in recycling. Our market is not mature. So we are still a bit primary aluminium focused. Those countries are far more recycling oriented
Recycled
focus.
focus.
Now, ESG as a goal that you mentioned is by the way, for all public listed companies, there are BRSR reporting as they are called. They have
Right.
to all publish it. It's a mandate and a compliance. In fact, our team is involved with our group sustainability team to ensure that these things are reported in a right way and all of that. But I think compliance is one thing to report it. I think the bigger value is saying what insights can you gather and what can you drive in the business to make the business better. I think those are the areas where you mentioned energy. By the way,
Right.
energy is the highest usage in a place like aluminium. So
Right.
there, we have worked on a project to say that there are large baths in which the alumina is formed. So over there, it's a 36-hour cycle in which the stuff is getting melted. Now, in that molten form, sometimes the temperature can fluctuate. End of the day, it's a machine. So the model that has been created is to look at all the sensor data, look at the pattern to say, will the temperature fluctuate? And if the temperature fluctuates, energy consumption will go haywire and your quality may also go haywire. So now there's a model which is able to predict a temperature fluctuation going. The antidote to that is there's a catalyst called aluminum fluoride rods, so you can dip that rod and control the temperature. So net these types of things are being done to say, can you project something? If something's going to go wrong, can you proactively take a measure so that the energy consumption can also happen, the product quality can also be controlled. So
Makes
in
sense.
general, a lot of energy related projects are anyway happening for cost reasons. And by the way, even if it is for cost region, if you're conserving energy,
Right.
you're also, sustainable in some ways. So
True,
many
very
a
true.
time we tell people that don't think of sustainability as a extra thing that you have to do and over and above everything. Sometimes you do better logistics. You will save cost, but you'll also save, become more, sustainable. So I do think that a lot of work that we do, whether it is in transportation, whether it is in energy conservation, people who are doing it are not thinking that they are contributing to sustainability, but they're hugely contributing to sustainability, and we make them see that what you do is actually showing up in the ESG scorecard as well. So
Right.
don't think that ESG is some afterthought that you are doing. And we
Yeah.
are trying to bring the two together. Safety is another one which we are focusing a lot on. And over there, actually, we are doing some interesting work on the behavioral science to say it's not only about data, how do humans think and how can we, make the factories more safe.
It makes a lot of sense. In fact, they say in manufacturing, reliability beats hero days or the top production days, right? So, is there any way that you've been able to, because I'm sure that, when you're talking about manufacturing of aluminium, uh, there are a lot of other secondary and third degree vendors or partnerships as part of the whole ecosystem where there are a lot of dependencies. For example, when are the trucks of raw materials coming in, so on and so forth. Have you been able to deploy any algo which has thereby reduced downtime of manufacturing? Because that, I think, in most industries becomes a very big blockage in production.
Yeah. So I think predictive maintenance or asset reliability is a classical manufacturing use case to make sure that your asset doesn't fail. And there's a metric that is used is called mean time between failure. So
Right.
between two failures, if you keep increasing, you are better off. So that's a standard metric that manufacturing companies have always used. So there are algos, like I said, that they are able to. So for example, there's a soda ash making process. There are lots of these membranes. If a membrane fails, then your process stops. So, are you able to predict which membrane will fail? And you'll replace it at the next normal shutdown. So, all of these things have shutdown.
Right.
So, if that shutdown period, you already know some of these things are going to fail in the next time before the next shutdown. You can replace it now versus wait for that and failure to happen. So, many such things, and there are outside companies, a company called Uptime AI, and many others. So, we also engage a lot with outside startups who have come up with new algorithms,
Okay.
try to develop our own algorithms also. But asset reliability is a classical, case which we continue to focus on and make sure that the machines work for as long as possible, and whatever has to fail can be predicted in advance and done at the annual shutdown phase.
I'm
Possible.
assuming since you've come in and these algos that have come in more mainstream, you said that this has been there for a very long period of time. But have you been able to create a delta in this space as well?
That's always a hard question that data science people are finding it hard to answer, saying, "What did you do?" And by the way, that question was there 20 years ago when I was a Six Sigma head in the GE Capital days, because many a times what an enabling function has uniquely contributed to is sometimes hard to quantify.
Got
So I
it.
think we look at it in a collaborative way, that we are working with the business teams and collaboratively say, this is the past data. You had this thing. After we have worked together, what is the future? And is there a delta change? So in the past, many a time we would do one or two things only. Now we have learned to say in that area, try to do all the things together so that you can make a bigger impact versus you just did one thing. Some three other people did something else. No one knows who did what. So we are
Right.
saying, let's work together, pick up a theme, let's say predictive maintenance. If there are 5 things to be done on predictive maintenance, let's do all 5. Now, which of those 5 contributed, we don't know, but we all know those 5 together contributed something. So those are the new approaches that we are doing, which makes it easier to, quantify the impact that people are making.
That's fantastic.
And because people work with so many vendors, so many other things, all of that. So that's the reason for doing that.
Got it, sir. So now from aluminium, let's move to trading. So Aditya Birla Global Trading, right? So again, from the consumer's perspective, ABG's trading arm ships 27 plus million metric tons annually across 80 plus sourcing countries to 95 plus markets with about $6 billion of revenue. It's headquartered in Singapore. Uh, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this. What are the key metrics that are on daily basis that you track when it comes to trading? What is the most important metric that anyone who wants to get into or understand the space should be thinking about on a daily basis?
Right. So first of all, it's a privately held company, so the numbers are not publicly available. But if you think about a trader of anything, right, their job is to predict what's so they have to basically read the market. Where is the market headed, and find opportunities to do arbitrage. In the past, it was all about information asymmetry. Even in the stock market, someone got some information, someone else. Nowadays, that information asymmetry is gone with the advent of everything. So I think having a better sense of the market, and you can call it reading the market, is where the value is. Now, how do you read the market? I think data can help you. Because if you have a lot of data and a lot of insights, you can bring it all together to have a better read of the market than someone else, because now you can't trade on proprietary information, which was the case in the past. So I think therefore the need to use data to better develop your acumen is becoming more and more prevalent in the world of trading.
Makes
So in
sense.
our case, we are not like day traders. Our traders are like, taking positions on the commodities, and the volume of trading is not as if you're morning evening sitting, but they're more taking long term positions. So
Makes
I think
sense.
the thing that they would like to predict is, where is this moving? Is it going to go up or down? Many a times it's not the absolute number that they're interested in. They're just looking at the direction. So our teams are trying to create mechanisms and models using all kinds of data. These days, so much data is available, trying to figure out which are the more relevant data. And over the last 1.5 years, we have been working with traders to again fine tune the model. So we'll tell them, we think this is going to happen. Then something happened. Feedback, why did a delta happen? So we will never be 100% right. But can we be sort of give the confidence to the trader that when you look at this model, most of the time it is better than your gut feel. Or if you're a new trader, you have just come into this business, this is the past data, you can use this as a companion. So in many ways, I'm saying that all these AI models and all should be seen as a friend and a companion and as a co-pilot, not as a competitor. Because many a time the starting point is, what will this fellow tell me that I already don't know? And it's hard for any business person to believe that someone can be a companion. So I think the selling point is to say, think of it as a companion, and that's the main thing that we are trying to work on.
Got it, sir. Now I'm going to move to a interesting thing that we spoke about. You mentioned about right at the beginning, which is a lot of new categories shaping up, a lot of extra push into newer categories, including paints, Birla Opus, and then jewelry as well with Indriya. On the Indriya front, I read, and for consumers to know, uh, Aditya Birla Group is infusing 5,000 crores. I think someone mentioned that they've seen a store in Bangalore that's already started. There are 100 stores likely to come up very soon. And the plan is in the next 5 years, India should become the top three jewelry brands in the country, right? That's an aggressive approach that EBG is taking. On that front, I wanted to talk to you about two things. How are you making sure, or what on data points, that consumers actually are able to take faster decisions and their cart size or average revenue per user ARPU is also increasing? Is it, better appointments? I do not know if jewelry stores have appointments, but I'm just guessing it out from a retail standpoint. Are there appointments? Are they better trying out features? Are they able to use some AR, VR methodologies, or technologies to try out things better? What works out in this environment?
Yeah. So first of all, whenever the group has entered a business, and that's my personal observation, is that they think of it as a generational business, not in a short-term way. If you look at any of these businesses that we have been speaking about,
Right,
they've been around for like 20, 30, 50, 75 years, right?
right,
People are not there to say, hey, we'll enter it and in some time we'll make some money and sell it out. That's not the mindset which is there. So one thing, therefore, one has to remember is that while there'll be short-term targets of getting to some revenue number or margin number, I think the longer-term intent is to be a trusted partner for the consumer for the years to come, for generations to come. So that's the strategic thinking that one has to keep in mind for any business that one enters. There could be some cases where we've exited business also, we tried a few and didn't work out. But in general, the idea is that you want to create a trusted brand. In fact, inspired trust is a purpose statement value in our group. This thing that create businesses which are sustainable and so on and so forth, right? So that's the thing, and the brand does inspire trust. Now, specific to jewelry, I think the what we have also learned is that when you have to use data and analytics, start with something very basic and simple, not very complex. Because many a times the analytics people would love to do some complicated model, right? But that's not the intent. So at least in jewelry, we are saying, okay, we are opening stores. Can we put just some simple scorecards over there and just start tracking data? Because many times, if you don't have the right data, you can't even make complicated models. So the
right.
starting point here has been just simple data to say which store, how many, they're called JCs, jewelry consultant, how many of them are there, how are they converting, what is selling, what is not selling, what is sitting in the inventory. So right now, a lot of stuff is happening just observing. that in the Karol Bagh store, what sold when, in the morning or in the evening, or who sold it.
Hmm.
In the this store which has been you spoke about, which is open in Bangalore, we'll again monitor. So I think we are trying to learn a lot from the market, and using that learning, we will start to take action. So I think, like I said, since we are in it for the long run, right now the initial phase is just get the right data in place, get some simple ideas, start acting on it. And the simple idea could be so many things are selling in this season. See, these are very new businesses. Some things are very seasonal in nature. So while we may have stocked it, and over a period of time we'll say, oh, it actually sells only in Diwali or in marriage or whatever. So why do we need to stock it through the year? We can stock it at that point in time. So I think we are trying to look for those patterns which can allow us to run the business better. End of the day, what do you want? You want lower inventory. You don't want to carry a lot of inventory. You want faster conversion, faster. So the basic business metrics are exactly the same. The
Right.
question is, how do you get to it? And the idea is to get the right data, observe on it, do some experiments. I mean, the data allows you to do experiments. You try something in some store, it works. That becomes your axiom, which can be utilized somewhere else. So I think idea is to learn from data and try to distill that to be used elsewhere as well. But right now it's very early days because every location is very different. We can't say that this works in this store, so it will work somewhere else. Over time, I do think that we may find some meta patterns to say in these localities that and this is very similar. We can apply the same logic, but some of those things will happen later. Right now, we're just observing store by store what's going on. Over time, maybe we will be able to segment and come up with things which can drive our business better.
Makes a lot of sense, sir. In fact, you mentioned a very interesting point. I wanted to follow up on that. Uh, you said that there could be meta patterns that could come out of it that can then be leveraged across, right? For consumer businesses in the past, for example, when I worked at TVS, we noticed that there are certain data point anchors which are very unlikely anchors. You don't think of them as anchors, and you realize that there could be correlations with a lot of other patterns, right? For example, in case of Swiggy, we I came to know about it through some read that they identified that for example, if a household has a washing machine, there's a very high likelihood or correlation that if someone has a washing machine, they would order via, or they can order via Swiggy, right? So let's target those kind of consumers across. I know you mentioned that consumer businesses do not contribute as much as some of the non-consumer business, manufacturing businesses do, or trading businesses do. But have you ever come across any interesting, unique data anchor that has led to very unlikely correlations that most consumers will not know about?
Unfortunately, I have to say I haven't come across this because, like I said, all of these businesses are quite independent of each other at this point in time.
Hmm.
I do think that at a group level, there's a belief that certainly we can bring ideas from jewelry and fashion and the capital business and tomorrow paints and all of that. But I would say today they are all very independent, and some initiatives to bring things together at a group level hasn't really succeeded in a big way. But I do think that it remains a big area of opportunity. I mean, we have seen that the
Hmm.
Tatas have come up with the loyalty program and so on and so forth.
Right.
We don't have any such program at this point in time. And maybe I would argue that some of our businesses are relatively small and still in the growth mode. They're trying to just sort of grow and come to a certain level and then start to do that. But some things on a bilateral basis keep happening between two businesses. But I wouldn't say that at a group level, we have been able to harness all the consumer data in a meaningful way. That remains an aspiration. And I do think that that aspiration will get fulfilled in some time to come because people are seeing the value of what you just said. That the same consumer and the same behavior, how can everyone take advantage of that? That's an area which is happening in bits and pieces, but I wouldn't say that we have been fully successful, but that's an aspiration.
That was one of the targets, like we were discussing earlier, also was put on us as well at TVS, where your colleague and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
my ex-boss
yeah,
Mahesh
yeah,
Kalawai
yeah, yeah,
had mentioned that average products per consumer
yeah,
should be much higher than one, even though
yeah,
TVS is perceived as a long tail set of products, right?
yeah.
But that's where a lot of these ideas were shaping up in our head as a conglomerate as well back in the day, about how do we connect them and use data analytics to figure out how do we target different consumers at different touch points.
I think what tends to happen is when you have large public listed companies
Hmm.
with their own goals and their own strategies, bring them together at a point in time is not always possible. So it requires
Yeah.
some effort over a long period of time to get there because they're all having their own goals. They're doing it in a certain way. Some
True.
of these horizontal initiatives are not necessarily coming together. But I think the will is there. And slowly, I'm expecting some of these things will start to happen.
No, I'm sure. I mean, with the size of the companies that you're speaking about,
Yeah.
it is obviously a lot more complex to bring that together. That's why they have a champion in you to bring that, right? Now, coming to one of the other giants, other champions within the group, which is UltraTech Cement. Uh, One of the biggest companies, if I'm not wrong,
Yeah.
of the group. Uh, for a first-time home builder who's trying to use UltraTech Cement, what are the metrics that are the most important? Does it lie in terms of on-time delivery of cement, or the type of, or the quantity of cement and concrete that they have to use, or some kind of technology framework which talks about the guidance of how to apply it and so on and so. What metrics or metric moves the needle the most when it comes to the first time home builders?
So, one is, of course, the strong brand that already exists through lots of advertising and customer segmentation, all of that, to make sure that people have trust in that brand. But if you come to the other side on the back end, the cost still matters. I mean, end of the day, it is a commodity business. And if we have to continue to sort of grow, we need to bring the cost down. So,
Right.
reducing cost per bag continues to remain a big metric. And the components could be energy and logistics and procurement and many others. So that's number one. Number two, you have a huge dealer network which you need to sell. You don't want very high attrition in that dealer network. So
Right.
how do you make it meaningful for them? So there's a mechanism in which the schemes that you are giving out, do the dealers feel excited? Do they make money? Are the incentives correct or not? Right? So how do you motivate your dealer network to stay with you? Are you able to even predict that some of these dealers are going to attrite, just like we do at employee attrition? So what's going on? Are they not making enough money, and what can we do to help them make money? Right? So how do you preserve your dealer network as well? So I think there are some of these things also very critical on the back end, that you need to run your efficient very efficiently to continue to reduce cost per bag, set up newer projects again in a faster time frame at a lower cost, get your dealers with you, and of course on your marketing side continue to make sure that your trust that you have is preserved. So I think all of those things, clearly there are many other things that have been there. There's an app, you as a consumer can go to the app, you can do all kind of design, all of that. But unless we get the right cost, we get the right dealer incentive and the right trust branding, some of the other things may not happen. So I do
Makes
think
sense.
that all of them have to come together, but some of these are not very visible to people outside, and that's why I'm highlighting them.
No, it makes a lot of sense. In fact, coming to dealer excitement, one is incentivization, but could there also be an important factor of inventory planning? Because, for example, in paints industry, I've heard that it becomes so important and to identify which dealer will sell what kind of SKU in terms of boxes or cartons of paint on a particular day of that month, so that that is being stocked out, and accordingly the inventory planning in the whole supply chain logistics of it is working out that way. How important or pertinent is that in the cement industry as well?
Very, very important, like in any other industry. So between manufacturing and sales, there's an inbuilt constructive tension, if I may, to say, they will always say that this is selling and you should make this, and they will make something, and they will say you're not, doing it. So I think this constructive tension exists. And I would say still we have a lot of opportunity to bring these things much more seamless. And therefore, there are some projects which we are working on to ensure that our factories are producing exactly what is selling. In fact, recently I was, talking to someone in the group, and he said that, the founder of the group, he used to look at only two metrics when he used to come to a factory. So he would come to a factory, you are a factory manager. He'll say, are you at 100% capacity utilization? You'll say yes. Are your warehouses totally empty? I say, yes. He said, that's all he cares. He says, you make full and you don't keep any inventory. So if you
No.
think about it, we talk about metrics and measures and all of that. But the late GT Birla and some of the founders at that time also with no data had a very simple metric in their mind to say, am I operating at the highest capacity and I'm not having inventory, it has been picked up. And by the way, there was a third metric that he would ask the employees, are you happy working here? Think about it, that was a balanced scorecard.
Right?
And there was a Parta system of a daily P&L that they had. So sometimes I wonder whether with all the data and AI, have we overcomplicated stuff than some of the founders who could get it with their mental math on daily I'm making money, employees are happy, factories are running at full capacity, there's no inventory and all of that. So just an anecdote on that.
That's a good rule of thumb
Yeah.
to just quickly
Yeah.
ascertain, right? But I think the supply chains have become since then become hopefully.
Yeah,
I
much
think
more
it's
complex.
much
So we
more
do need
complex.
all of
Okay,
this. I'm not
we
saying
do
we can
need
run
it.
it that.
I mean, inventory holding cost becomes a very important aspect are today, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes reverse logistics as well, right?
Yeah,
These are very
yeah,
important cost factors
yeah, yeah.
that you factor in. Uh, I now will move on to Aditya Birla Capital. There's so many group companies. I'm sorry, I'm
That's okay.
bombarding with so many
Yeah,
questions
yeah,
on these.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, we have started talking about loans becoming faster. Are there any key attributes because of which loans have become faster in terms of disbursements?
See, first of all, capital is a conglomerate in itself.
Right.
So there's a NBFC which does loans. There's a asset management company which manages your asset. There's a home finance company. There's a life insurance company. There's a health insurance
Insurance.
company and all of that, right? So it's again a big thing. Now, data and analytics is being used, as you can imagine, in financing business all over. I think the one of the unique part that I want to call out, which I think is a bit different compared to others, is the health insurance company, which was the last one to sort of come about within the group 7 8 years ago, was set up almost like a well-being company, not even an insurance company. In fact, the head of the company is an insider. He said that I don't want to hire people who are actually from the health insurance industry because it is sold based on fear. I want it to be kind of created based on well-being. In fact, I'm a biased person because I'm a consumer also.
Right.
So I have an health app. So if I do X number of steps, they give me discount, they give me some nudges on what to do. So I think there again, and our team also works on some projects to reduce fraud, improve underwriting, enhance customer experience and all of that. So I think a lot can be done. But again, like I said, the purpose here I think is slightly unique and different to say we're not scaring you that you should buy insurance. We are encouraging you to have better health and hopefully therefore not use insurance. So I think we kind of many of us resonate with that purpose and doing a bunch of projects on that. Otherwise, some of these industries, everyone is doing the same. You can do 1% better than the other. Nothing wrong in that, but there's no fun in it. I always say that we should solve a problem which has a unique blend of strategy and technology. So if there's a new thing that you are trying to do, let's support that. If someone is following the same strategy in any business than the next person, we can still help them become better. But then the delta is only X. But if someone is finding differentiated strategy, the delta can be far higher. So I think we try to also look at innovativeness apart from just the reusability in our projects.
No, it makes a lot of sense. In fact, again, it underlines trust, right? Consumer trust, which you spoke about as a very important principle value as part of the group, right? For people, from the consumer standpoint, Arthur Birla Health Insurance Company covers 22 plus million lives. I don't know how dated is this data, but I think it's last year's data. 22 million lives, presence in 5,000 plus cities with more than 140,000 agents, spread across. And like you said, that, they try to not fear monger. They try to talk about the value aspects of the ecosystem of the insurance coverage. Uh, so I want to talk to you about this. In Europe, I read about a couple of years back, there was an health insurance company, rather insurance company, not health insurance, but I'll tie it back to health as well. Uh, they use computer vision to let people immediately talk about what was the incident that happened with them. And basis the retina scan and the facial scan, they would be able to identify whether this person is speaking the truth or not. And according the disbursement would happen a lot faster, which made the whole process simpler. I do not know how successful was this company, but I think initially they were one of the first companies to have tried this out about 3 years ago. And for example, I'm at the airport, I've left my bag on my seat. Someone that steals that without me knowing about it. So I can just open my app, talk into the camera, narrate this incident for about a minute or minute and a half, and that's all that they need to understand if I'm telling the truth and if that is actually what has happened. They'll approve or reject the claim, and probably in an hour's time, that money would hit the person's account. I mean, sometimes it's become as frictionless as that. How do you think we can go a lot faster on the health insurance claims as well? One aspect that you mentioned was gamifying the whole thing. For example, insurance premiums can go up or down depending upon your habits, and there'll be incentivization through the premium payments and by developing good habits. So for example, steps counts or something else. How else do you think it can change?
So I think agentic AI is going to play a big role, and we are working with the team over there. See, wherever there's a human agent involved in doing things, we are trying to see how we can automate or bring that knowledge into a digital agent. So think about sales. think about customer service, think about any kind of other adjudication of your underwriting or whatever. So I think what we're trying to see, can we create specific agents which can amplify what we can do through agents and not necessarily rely on human workers? Because think about any place where humans are constrained. You can do only so many calls or you can have so many interactions. Now if you can replicate one, not only can you do more, you can even do it more effectively. So again, going back to faster, better, newer. So I think there is an opportunity over there with this agentic AI to improve the customer experience at all layers of the life cycle, because a lot of things are still manual with human dependence. And there's a lot of attrition also in these industries. I mean, if you look at just the financial service industry, people do move a lot from here to there. So the knowledge goes with them. So if we
Right.
can create knowledge agents who are smarter and can work 24/7, by the way, there's no restriction.
True.
You can, I think, achieve a lot more and do many things faster and better, and maybe newer things as well.
That's a very interesting point. I think that's a very valid application of agentic AI that we keep hearing about all the time these days, right? Uh, I'm going to move into a very different segment. I want to talk about you, Chief. A lot of people who know you take a lot of gyan from you. You know, you've showered a lot of wisdom to a lot of us, including me. So I want to talk to you about how have you picked up this wisdom over the years. You mentioned right at the beginning of the conversation about some of those episodes, right? But is there some very interesting fundamental learning that you took up at IIT Delhi or IIM Ahmedabad that you still, apply for taking certain tough decisions?
See, I think what has happened is that whenever someone has asked me a question, I have tried to see what have I done, what have I learned, or what would I do.
Hmm.
So instead of trying to lecture someone on what they should do, I have always personalized it to myself to say, what could I do? And then share that, saying, you know what, if I was in that situation, I did that, or if I'm in this situation now, I would do that. So actually, I have used those questions to provoke myself to think and form a model for myself. And then I also say that, that model may or may not work for you because you are a different human being.
Hmm.
At the same time, this can be a valid input that you can take away. So I have utilized intuitively all those interactions to learn about myself.
Hmm.
And to me, therefore, each such interaction has been an interaction of self-reflection. While people think that I'm giving them gyan, I'm actually getting gyan for myself and then relaying it back to them, and with the caveat to say that this may work for me because I'm a different human being.
Right.
But think about what will work. And of course, then I say, at your stage in life or whatever I know of you, maybe this model has to be contextualized in your case and could be different. So to me, these interactions are actually learning experiences and reflections. And to me, this interaction today, I'm thinking that a lot of things that you asked me made me reflect and think of things. And I would have learned a bunch of things which I can't articulate today. But somewhere some neural networks have been formed and made me better than I was before the interaction.
No, I think what you have said is not just humble, you being humble, but I mean, it's logical, of course, it's you being humble, but I think that also very clearly shows empathy and emotional quotient of a leader like you. Because I think I know a lot of people who have good IQ, right? So we are able to rationalize a lot of conversations, we're able to talk about a lot of things, solve for problems. But a lot of problems today also have an underlying human layer to it, right? And that is where the way you've responded to this by saying that, you think about how would you respond to a particular situation, how would you solve for a particular problem, talks about empathy, which is, I think, super critical in the world of AI that we are living in today.
I think more than that, and this is true for anyone, I also don't know what can happen to anyone. So
Hmm.
how can I tell someone what they should do? The world is very different from what it was in the past. So
Hmm.
even my father was very sure that I should be an engineer because he was one, and
Hmm.
maybe he was right.
Hmm.
Because in the days of scarcity, which we were brought up in,
Hmm.
when things are very less, it's easier to make decisions. These
Right.
are take it or leave it. These are the two options, right? In the world of abundance, the decision making model has to change. So that's what I have also learned and embraced to say, I can't tell anyone anything because there's so many different paths possible.
Hmm.
And but I can help you think about the pros and cons of each path, and maybe through your own experimentation you have to learn. So I think today the advantage is that we can, through our own experimentation and reflection,
Hmm.
learn about things.
Right.
I use the product management agile methodology analogy to say, think of your own self as a product think of your own life as a keep adding features and launching them every not 2 weeks, maybe 2 quarters, and then learn from experience and then keep adding. So there is no career path. There's only a learning path or a human path. Where it will take you will whatever is working for you. Just like Amazon can't predict what 5 years later the website will look like.
Right.
How can you predict your career stage 5 years from now?
True.
It's a wrong question to ask. So I think a lot of questions that we are asking today are relevant from the previous era and not worth asking anymore. We need to find new questions which are more relevant from the era that is going to come, which is an abundance era, where different questions have to be asked. The other easiest one to describe is the two things that we consume as human beings is food and information, right? Food, information. In a scarcity era, you can consume as much and hoard it because you don't have much. So we would hoard information.
Right.
We would also hoard food. We get a food, we'll just eat it because we don't know when we'll get now. Today, we are applying the same mental model in the abundance era. More food, obesity, more information consumption, mental illness. Those two elements are happening because the old mental model is being used on new data.
Wow.
I think the better mental model is, patience. So for me, I don't eat unless I feel like eating. I don't consume any information. I live in the JOMO mode of joy of missing out. I have no idea what happened yesterday. If someone won a cricket match, so be it. If I can ask Perplexity or I can ask Abhay, they'll tell me if I need. But
Right.
why do I need it? Everything. So I think we all have to figure out our own mental models on how do we want to deal with that abundance. Abundance is great, but it requires you to take decisions on what you need to engage with and what not. And that is hard. Everyone is engaging with everything because that's how we have been trained. So we need to change our mental model to deal with this new world, and that everyone has to figure out their own method. For me, it will be different. For my daughter, it will be different. I tell them that you can't live in a JOMO mode that I am because I have come somewhere and I have achieved something. For you, maybe you need more information than I do, or certain different type of information. I, for example, can get away with say I don't care what happened to the market yesterday or what happened somewhere else. But in your team, if your bosses feel that you have no clue what happened yesterday, they may feel you are dumb. So things like that. So I think
Right.
everyone has to figure out what they need to do. But I am trying to figure out what I have done. I share that with others and say, use this as a GitHub code, utilize it, form your own model.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for sharing that. In fact, I'm going to borrow some of these learnings and analogies that you've just given. I'm going to go to another aspect of your life, very important one, which is that of Wells Fargo. In Wells Fargo, it was a very regulated environment, and you were trying to take a lot of important decisions, strategic decisions, basis data. Although the trade-off was very clear that they're highly regulated environments around that, right? Was there any interesting episode where, on paper, some strategies seem very obvious looking at the data points, but after interacting with the frontline workers or associates, etc., you realize that, there has to be a big shift in what the data is showing you versus the holistic vision that you have always thought of?
So actually, I was not so much in the data field in my Wells Fargo tenure. So in some senses, when I left Dell, I kind of left the analytics field and got into more of a strategy and setting up the offshore center. And I did set up a digital team, but I was not in data. But I think the broader thing that I have observed in both Wells Fargo and frankly, healthcare and finance are two industries that are very dear to us. Our health and our money. We don't want to part with any of it, right?
Right.
So I tell people that, think about it. Those two also are regulated very well.
Right.
The government also doesn't want those companies to, part with your health or your money. And therefore, the pace of experimentation and change will by definition will be slow. You can't suddenly do an experimentation and money disappears or you fall ill, right? So I think the expectation that people should have from those industries in terms of innovation and has to be very different from what you would expect in a Google or something else where it doesn't matter if something's failed. So I do think that people working in these companies sometimes we did hire people from some of these startups and they would like to do a bunch of things which was not allowed and not relevant. And similarly, if you go from here to there, you have to change your mindset. So I think, again, like I go back to what's the strategy? What are you trying to achieve? What type of experiments you can do to achieve it without taking undue risk? That's the only meta lesson that I have learned.
Sure, sir. Thank you. If I can ask you one more question, which is around the startup ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem. How do you think are the startup ecosystem bringing their innovation value to large organization? Is that really happening, or is it just more of a phase that we are seeing where startups are creating value?
I don't think that the startups are able to influence the large corporate in the way that I would expect them to. And the reason for that is the large companies work at a very different pace. And their ability to do experiments and absorb experiments is very low. So while the big techs are good in all of those things, but the other companies, I don't see them, I mean, they all have such programs and you have been part of them. I have seen
Right.
many of them. I don't think they have figured out the best way to absorb the knowledge and the acumen that these startups bring to the table. So
Hmm.
we use a lot of startups, but again, I would say we use them in a very tactical way to say, oh, you made a solution, we'll use it, and that there's nothing wrong in it.
Hmm.
I think the value that the startups bring to the table is far higher than that.
Hmm.
Their ability to, like I said, the why and the how.
Hmm.
We are using their what, which is a very small portion of what they bring to the table.
Hmm.
Their energy, their ability to think differently, their ability to challenge the status quo. Some of those values I think are far more impactful, which I don't think we are able to absorb very well. We just use the final output, which is not bad, but I think the opportunity is far higher.
Right. I personally think that, sometimes it's also about cultural, bringing about cultural change, a cultural mindset shift, right? Uh, and a bunch of these organizations have tried to bring in startup founders just to talk about their way of leading lives or how do they run operations on a day-to-day basis, just to kind of charge internal employees up a little bit more to understand the difference between the privilege that they're going through in life versus the hardships that you can go through outside, right? So you have a safety net in the environment, in a corporate environment, which means that at the end of the month, you're gonna get your salary. In a startup environment, sometimes that's not the case, and that's why the rush to ensure that they are innovating, they are developing products, they're shipping them out faster is a lot higher, right? And how that change, mindset shift, can bring so much more value to the corporate world as well. Of course, they have their own complexities, and that's why sometimes it's not easy to bring about those changes, and sometimes not even viable. But that mixing of two worlds is sometimes very
I mean, we
interesting.
have seen some bad cultures also in some startups because
Yeah,
the desire to get too much too quickly at the expense of the employee well-being is also
exactly.
something which is not very good. So I think everyone can learn from each other.
True,
Both have a place in the economy.
for
I
sure.
think we have to figure out how to best balance the value that both bring to the table.
Gotcha. Very last segment, short one, rapid fire, rapid questions, rapid answers, and we'll end it on that. So I'm going to throw a bunch of these questions at you, and please do share your candid perspectives on this. I know that you always do, but still. Uh, the first one is on UltraTech, on-time trucks or perfect forecast, which has a bigger impact?
First one on time.
On-time trucks, awesome. Aditya Birla Fashion Retail Limited, more sizes or more styles for growth?
More what?
More sizes
Ah,
or more styles or SKUs?
styles.
Sizes. Interesting. Birla Opus, shade preview or painter matching? Bigger customer experience one.
Uh, Painter matching.
Painter matching. Wow. Aditya
I have
Birla,
to say, I don't know these businesses as well, so I don't know whether my answers are correct or not. Some of these CEOs might listen to me and say he's got it wrong, so I don't know. These are
no,
my
no,
personal
those are your
observations.
perspectives.
Yeah,
Observations, of course. Aditya Birla Capital, fewer steps or more explanations? What cuts drop offs more?
fewer steps.
Fewer steps. One AI data buzzword that you would ban from decks.
Digital transformation.
Alright. Metric you check most often.
Steps, my steps.
That's amazing. Book you gift the most.
The Invisible Women.
By?
I don't remember, but it's a seminal book. Whoever wants to think about gender diversity, and it's a
Hmm.
big topic.
Hmm.
I think it just changed the way I thought about that topic. I think the discussion in the public discourse is very shallow. So
Hmm.
I tell everyone that you should read it, and if they ever call me to give a talk on Women's Day, I tell them you should all first read this book.
Brilliant. I'm definitely going to buy that. What is innovation in one word or line for you?
To me that then faster, better, newer, which I said before.
No, it makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Tool you can't live without at work. Of course, not email, but any other tool.
Nowadays, perplexity has become my companion.
That's amazing. Skill every non-tech manager should learn this year.
I do think that using these any chat GPT type tool
Hmm.
in a meaningful way, I think it's a great companion because people are still so whenever now someone is coming and asking me a question, I said, have you checked with these tools? And tell me what they told you and let's talk on top of that, rather than you me being the first port of call. I think it's a great place to get some initial ideas and then brainstorm on top of that. So I think they should become the base
Hmm.
and then let's create new knowledge, which is probably not available in ChatGPT.
For sure. No, that's amazing. One habit your teams should start tomorrow.
What
One
habits?
habit.
I think consistency is one area which
Hmm.
I find hard in anyone today because there's so much distraction, there's so much happening that doing a few things consistently, people have to pick up. It could be going to the gym and doing an exercise. It could be a weekly meeting. It could be anything. But I do think that people have to remember the power of compounding and find certain things that they have to do consistently in their life beyond brushing their teeth and having a bath.
That's amazing.
Sometimes they don't do that either.
What is a morning ritual that keeps you going throughout your day?
My morning walk, run, whatever, and conversation.
Oh, nice. Conversation.
Yeah, so I don't do lone run. I'm talking
Oh.
to someone, and the term that I have coined is conversation, that we chat like this. So I could do this podcast on a run.
On a run?
Yeah,
Wow,
last
okay.
last marathon I ran with Atif, who's the head of analytics at Misho,
Hmm.
and we had a 4-hour conversation on lots of topics, including data and AI.
Wow. Okay. I couldn't keep up for 1 hour. I remember the last time I met you at your office for 1 hour, we were just walking.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I think I should improve my physical well-being. What would be India's biggest win in the next decade, specifically when you're building in India? What do you think India's biggest win is going to be?
I think our digital public infrastructure is a unique thing that we have created and continue to create.
Hmm.
I think how to get more and more people to be aware of it and use it and do something about it. In fact, one of the things that I missed in my GCC world was leveraging DPI. Because DPI can only be used if you're in a domestic business.
Hmm.
So a good thing that I like in my current job is that we are having an India business. And a lot of things, so whether it is the fast track data to be utilized to figure out where is the traffic going, where is the city expanding, where should I set up the next cement plant or the paint distributor, or if I can use some data to project something around what SKUs to sell or where to locate a new store. So a lot of external public data which is now being available, and these DPIs are allowing us to utilize this in many meaningful ways. That I think is going to be India's biggest strength. And we are also, as a nation, exporting it to the world, at least the UPI and some of these stacks.
Last one. So finish the sentence. Data helps
When you have an idea of what your strategy is.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
It
you.
was so enriching to get these candid perspectives, a lot of data points from you, and I'm getting a very holistic overview of how a large conglomerate, very diverse businesses also leverage a lot of AI, a lot of data in leveraging these data points to shape up the strategy better or actually operate a lot more effectively when it comes to cost or building the top line. So thank you once again, sir, for taking our time and sharing a lot of this information with us.
Thank you, Abhay. Totally enjoyable time spent with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.